Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to continue talking about from yesterday this whole Disney Sony drama regarding Spider-Man. If you haven't heard the news, which I'd be shocked if you haven't, yeah, it looks like Sony had pulled out of a deal with Disney yesterday regarding Spider-Man, and now it looks like Spider-Man's not going to be in the MCU anymore. Well, as after I made that video, more information started coming out about it, and we learn a lot more when we start reading and listening to other people and who can clarify a little bit more or give a better understanding on the whole situation. And that's what I did. And look, my mind on this, it still sucks. At the end of the day, it still sucks what happened. But maybe I'm going to backtrack on what I said from yesterday. Maybe I was a little too harsh on Sony yesterday. That I'm looking at this a little bit differently today. First of all, all of this isn't really just Sony's fault. Some of this is, believe it or not, going to go to Disney's fault as well. Now, from my understanding, from what I said yesterday, Disney wanted to do like a 50-50 deal. They wanted to take 50% of the profit, I guess, that Spider-Man makes, and Sony walked out. Well, apparently there was a little bit more to it than just that, and I said that Sony walked away from instead of doing a counter offer. Well, I heard from John Campea. If you guys watch the John Campea show, he actually states, from what he read, I think on Deadline's article, that Sony actually did try to counter act to that, and Disney declined, I guess. Yeah, a deal was not reached. And I should actually get the quote up here from Sony, because Sony did release a statement after this whole thing went down, and they were getting a lot of grief from fans about this, because a lot of fans, it's still boycotting. I mean, boycott Sony, save Spider-Man. All this stuff is like trending on Twitter right now. And I am trying to get it up here as we speak, so forgive me if I look a little distracted. And, they came out and said some things which I thought was really nice on Disney's behalf, when they could have been a little bit more, pissed off about all this. So here's the tweets from Sony Pictures. I'm going to read them right now. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. They go on to say in one more tweet, Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he helped us put us on, which we will continue. So this is an interesting tweet, because it does sound like they are going to continue where Spider-Man Far From Home left off. The question that they don't answer is whether or not they will be allowed to use characters from the MCU. A lot of people are speculating no. It seems like that's going to be a done and over with, but I don't know. Maybe there could be a way they could work something out. That's at least I'm hoping. And yes, all of this makes sense now. When you hear about the 50-50 deal and added on to this, it starts to become a little bit more clear at what is going on. Disney, they looked at Kevin Feige. Obviously, Kevin Feige is the key to all of this, and Sony wanted Kevin Feige to continue working on their Spider-Man movies. But the problem with that is, because these MCU films are getting more and more crowded, they have some new ones and some old ones always coming here and there throughout the years, that Spider-Man becomes a kind of gets in the way. And I guess what Disney was hoping to accomplish with this deal is that, look, if we're going to have our guy work for you too, then we want 50-50 of all the films that he's going to be working on for you. From my understanding, it was also going to include Venom and Morbius and any other spin-off films that Sony was planning on doing in the Spider-Man universe. Now, I also heard that part of the deal was also to allow Disney full control of all the spin-offs and characters that they have control over. And that's when Sony said goodbye. Or let's negotiate next time. The fact that they're leaving the door open there for negotiations to continue sound like, this was just a deal that was unfortunate for both sides. That wasn't going to work for either of them because, let's face it, Sony is the loser no matter what in this situation. And I know we love Disney and what they've been doing, their live-action movies. I know some people aren't fans of those films, but I'm a fan of those films. Maybe not all of them, but I do love the majority of them, especially now that they've been doing. Obviously, Star Wars and the MCU and Pixar. Disney owns a lot of stuff we all love. Sony has had a lot of misses lately for a lot of people. Aside from Spider-Man, they've had a couple of other misses, This would have been a lose-lose situation because if they walked away like they did, I think they knew fans were going to get upset with this whole thing. But if they agreed to the deal, they would have been losing out a lot because, wait, this is our biggest property and we're only getting half the money from it? That does not make sense on Sony's part. And on that part, I can finally understand what Sony might have been thinking. And that's why I was also saying I wish Disney would have at least said, okay, what about a 25-75 deal? Disney gets 25% and Sony still gets the majority of it. That would make more sense. But because the offer was 50-50, that was a little bit weird. That was way off the charts, and it didn't make sense on Sony's behalf, which is why it does make sense that Sony parted ways. It was Disney is getting very greedy, and they want to just own it all. And they know Spider-Man is just the last key that they need. It's sad if they can't work out a deal still. Okay, maybe someone else can take care of the Spider-Man franchise, but maybe in some ways Kevin Feige can give notes on what they could do. I know Kevin Feige is getting very busy, but I wish there is a way they could work this out and maybe still have Kevin Feige focus on the MCU, but still allow Spider-Man to be thrown in back and forth once in a while. Same thing with the characters on their side. I don't know. Hopefully Disney and Sony can come back together and work something out. I'm sure Kevin Feige would love to have Spider-Man stick around in the MCU. And of course a lot of fans want this version of Spider-Man. I feel bad for Tom Holland because the guy is he got to be living the dream. He is the Spider-Man in the MCU. I mean, if I was his age and I was an actor and I was in the MCU right now playing Spider-Man, I'd be losing my mind. And he looked like he was having a blast, and now it's that's all being ripped to him. It's oh man, now I'm like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I'm all alone in this universe, especially in a time where Marvel has all control of their entire characters again. It's such a bad time to be on the other side. Oh man, hopefully they work things out. So guys, comment below. Have you had time to think about this like I have and maybe become a little bit more rational about the whole situation, and maybe we do see it a little bit more on Sony's side, why they pulled out, and of course I'm sure most of us hope that a deal can be made. We'll see, only time will tell. And if not, look, I'm always rooting for the best, and I'm always hoping Sony will prove me wrong. Just like Warner Brothers, I'm hoping DC and Warner Brothers will make good films. DC has had a couple of good ones, but so has Sony, but they've also both had some not so great success. So I'm always wishing for the success of all sides because I want all these movies to always be great. And Sony has made some good Spider-Man movies before. Let's hope they prove me wrong. Maybe if they do a really cool Venom Spider-Man team up, maybe all will be forgiven. And I'll be like, MCU, what? We don't need that anymore. Who knows? So time will tell. Worst case scenario, the next couple of Spider-Man and spin-off movies do really bad in the box office, and eventually someone will buy out Sony. So until then, I hope you guys like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, take care.